Alex walked through the vast indoor shopping mall, balancing with practiced ease on his high heels, which were open-toed to let his painted nails peek out. Though his gait was relaxed, inside he was extremely tense. His Aunt Tabitha had overseen his dressing that morning, selecting an eye-catching outfit. He had on a flashy red latex dress that ended at mid-thigh, where there was a slit on the right side. It had short sleeves that ended in black bands, which echoed the black mandarin collar. His hair was in its usual neatly arranged state, and his makeup and jewelry weren't flashy, but that dress was drawing so much attention. He held his color-coordinated clutch purse at his hip and made sure to roll his hips as he moved, at the same time trying not to sway them too much. As he moved along the broad promenade, with its high ceiling, he felt exposed, as if all eyes were on him. What if someone realized that under that glamorous clothing he wasn't the girl Alexis, but the young man Alex? He wanted to check the small breast forms that were in the bra of thin rubber that he wore, even though he was sure they were in place. He was endlessly self-conscious. When his aunt had sent him off on his own, a short while before, she gave him a time to meet her in the food court. Alex had over an hour to explore the shops before rejoining her. He told himself that he might feel less conspicuous if he went into one of the stores. There was a sporting goods place where he used to go before his makeover. Back then, which wasn't really so long ago, he had pictured himself as a macho athletic fellow. Now, robbed of his male pride and versed in the ways of girlhood, he would feel out of place in that environment. Instead, he veered across to a shoe store. By instinct he moved toward the men's dress shoes, before catching himself and angling in the direction of the women's heels. He was drawn to the sleek forms and bright colors of the showier designs. A salesgirl approached him and said, "May I help you with anything, miss? We have some new arrivals, in latex, that would go nicely with your lovely dress." He swallowed uneasily and gave her a weak smile, saying, "No, thank you. I'm just looking." "That's fine. But if you'd like to try anything on, I'll be happy to help." Alex thanked her and went deeper into the store. It was so strange to be out in public like this. Until recently, the short walk to the letterbox near his aunt's home had been his idea of being put on display. Then she had begun taking him on errands, having him ask store employees questions, and even going to restaurants with her. It had all been unsettling, and now, on his own in this busy shopping center, he was quivering inside. He lingered near the rear of the store, checking that latex footwear and admitting to himself that it was very attractive. As he stood there holding one of the shoes, he couldn't help gazing at his long fingernails, so neatly painted to match his toes. He noticed a couple entering the shop, a tall, nattily dressed woman in her late 20s, and a shorter girl about Alex's age, in a more youthful outfit. The woman waved her companion to the side and found herself a seat. That same salesgirl greeted them. The woman said that she wanted to see some boots and pointed to a sample nearby, saying she would like to start with those and giving her size. The standing girl appeared a bit nervous as the clerk whisked into the stockroom to fetch the desired item. The older woman gave her a look full of unspoken meaning, affectionate but superior. The salesgirl returned with a box and opened it. She was about to help her customer into the boots, which were calf-length, black, and had stiletto heels. But the woman said, "No, I can see the store is busy. My friend will be happy to assist me." As she eyed her companion, Alex felt she was daring her to refuse. After the briefest pause, the young woman took the boots and hugged them to her chest. She got down on one knee, removed one of the woman's shoes, and eased a boot over the waiting foot, gently tugging it upward. With an effort she got it completely on and began the second. That one gave her more trouble, but she soon succeeded. Alex waited for her to rise, but she stayed there, now on both knees, while the confident woman got up and walked around the store. As she passed Alex, she gave him a penetrating stare, making him feel that she knew his secret. She sat again, and the kneeling girl had to carefully remove the boots. 2 more pairs followed, with the same scene being played out each time. Alex was fascinated but tried not to gawk. He wasn't exactly sure why it was affecting him so strongly. At last a decision was made to purchase the first pair. The younger female took them to the cashier and the older one paid. As they left, Alex followed them, unsure of his motive. He might have kept trailing them, but as he looked in front of him, he got a paralyzing shock. Coming toward him were 2 of the guys he had tried to hang out with before his aunt took over his life. They had allowed him to tag along but never really included him. He had felt inadequate and, in trying to compensate, had gotten himself into trouble with the authorities. That was when he was turned over to his forceful aunt, which had led to his current situation. As the guys came closer, they looked him up and down, appreciating what they saw. Alex felt his cheeks grow warm. They thought he was a girl. He wanted to find someplace to hide. The guys moved into his path and grinned as they got closer. His eyes darted from side to side. What could he do? At the last possible moment, the pair split up, one passing on each side of him. From his left he heard, "Nice dress, honey." From the other side came, "Love that walk." Alex's mind was reeling. He somehow took a misstep and stumbled. A strong hand caught his upper arm and gripped it firmly, preventing him from falling. He swiveled his head to see a tall female security guard looking at him with concern. She had strong cheekbones and dark eyes. The guard wanted to know, "Are you all right, young lady?" He had to take a breath before he could speak. I'm okay. Guess I wasn't paying attention to where I was going." He gave a small self-deprecating laugh. She released his arm and peered at him probingly. Was she going to discover that he was a boy? He took a step back, not sure what to do next. The woman put her hands lightly on his shoulders and said officiously, but with concern, "Be careful, dear. You wouldn't want to have any difficulties." No, ma'am. But if you do." She squeezed lightly but reassuringly with both hands. "I'll be here to protect you." Alex blinked nervously several times before he realized it would look like he was batting his eyelashes at her. Was she a lesbian who thought he really was female? Or had she decided he was male and that she would enjoy dominating him? He felt utterly defenseless. She flashed a grin, let go, and strolled off. He looked over his shoulder as she moved away and saw her glance back, which made him tingle, for reasons he couldn't fully fathom. Holding his purse with both hands, pressing it against his fluttering stomach, he continued on his way. Straight ahead was a department store which was one of the mall's anchors. Perhaps he would feel more anonymous among its many displays. He entered and went to look at hats, figuring he couldn't have any problems doing something that innocent. Wanting to be inconspicuous, like an anonymous shopper, he picked up a pillbox design with netting in the front. The hat was made from some sort of plastic. He uncertainly placed it on his head and looked into the mirror. It wasn't bad. He liked that it lent him a touch of maturity and even mystery. As he replaced it on the display stand, it struck him that he was becoming more and more interested in and discerning about feminine attire. Feeling calmer, he took his time passing by racks of belts and a table covered with neatly boxed gloves. He was becoming more relaxed by the minute. With renewed confidence, he walked the short distance to the cosmetics department. It was staffed by competent-looking women in chic outfits. Their hair was perfect and their makeup expertly applied. He felt a twinge of jealousy but then reminded himself that he wasn't Alexis but Alex. The conditioning he had received from his Aunt Tabitha had definitely taken hold on his mind. He wondered how long, after his stay with her was over, it would be before its effects faded and then vanished. The length of time he would be with her had been extended, but even so, it would eventually be over. It's not as if she could eventually bring him to the point where he would want to stay. He was puzzling through his uncertainties when someone spoke to him. It was one of the elegant women behind the counters, and she had something about your secret. It had finally happened. He had been found out and was about to have his true gender announced. His lower lip trembled as he asked, what? Her lips, nicely colored with pale pink lipstick, formed an amused expression. Now don't be shy. In fact, let's start with some lovely makeup. For instance. She reached for one of the samples. This new eyeliner. Notice how thick the brush is? We can get some very impressive results with it. He stood there helplessly as she cupped his smooth chin in the palm of her hand and began to work around his eyes. The woman introduced herself as Abby and said she liked the scent of his latex dress. He whimpered a thank you but was more concerned with the chance of being publicly outed. Abby chatted about his enviably delicate facial features as she switched to eyeshadow and then artificial lashes. She confided that she wasn't supposed to do so much for a customer but said she knew he was a natural model and wouldn't mind showing off her work to a few customers. That was the last thing he wanted to do, but, instead of declining, he agreed in a weak and wispy voice. She finished with the lashes and stepped back to get a better look at him. Abby nodded her approval. Alex began and then halted. He took a breath and went on. I was wondering who you wanted to show me off to. The capable cosmetician ran her hand above a row of lipsticks, stopping above one and plucking it from the display with a thumb and forefinger while keeping her pinky finger extended. She explained, there is a group of women who stop here around this time every Friday. They come from their regular luncheon get-together. They're quite fussy and act bored with whatever I show them. So seeing someone as fabulous as you, with the original and slightly over-the-top job I'm doing on your pretty face, well, it should shut their mouths, and maybe even open their purses. She uncapped the lipstick and considered Alex's mouth as if she were an artist and it was her blank canvas. Abby switched the lipstick tube for lip liner and carefully outlined Alex's lips to make them appear fuller. Then she colored them expertly with her choice, a vivid shade of magenta. After she was done, she reached behind her and selected gloss, which went over the bright color to make it glisten. When she showed Alex his reflection, he gasped. She had made him appear like himself, yet different, as if the face were the same but the personality was bolder. He didn't feel that way but couldn't deny that it was how he would seem to others. Just then Abby looked past him and said, "Oh, here come the ladies who lunch. Let's see what they think of you, sweetie." Alex saw a quartet of women approaching, all of them elegant and icily aloof. But when they spied Abby and her model, they suddenly became interested. The four of them crowded around, making him feel penned in and even more controlled. Abby explained that she was doing an impromptu makeover to her new discovery. The women examined his face with interest and several slim hands, decorated with expensive rings, touched his latex dress. He shivered but didn't dare to say a word. "I think she needs something else," one of the new arrivals stated. "What's that, Paris?" Abby wanted to know. "Well, you've given her a fantastic look but her jewelry is so not matching." She reached into her shoulder bag and took out a tiny box, which she set on the counter, explaining, "I got these for my niece, but I bought 2 pairs that are almost the same. So let's try one on this pretty princess." She opened the box and took out dangling earrings with light-catching red stones swinging at their ends. With practiced fingers, Paris removed the earrings Tabitha had selected for him and set them into the box, then fitted the new ones through his pierced lobes. She told him to swing his head so everyone could see how they glittered when they moved. He obeyed, feeling surreally detached from the real world, as if he had gone down the rabbit hole into Wonderland. "Oh," said another of the women, "I have something else that would be perfect for her." She reached into a colorful plastic bag with the name of a jewelry store on it and came out with a necklace of brightly colored stones, saying that she had gotten it at a terrific price and wouldn't mind contributing it to our project. Alex's heart raced for a moment. He was their project? All at once he wished he had been allowed to stay with his Aunt Tabitha. Or to be home polishing up some of her latex fashions. The second woman carefully unfastened the simple golden chain that was around his neck and set it aside. Then she clipped the much gaudier selection onto him. He was more the center of attention than ever as all 5 females ached over him. He was shown his reflection again and got yet another shock. Now he looked, what? It was almost as if he was inviting everyone to ogle him, like a strutting peacock. His only consolation was that at least the truth about his gender had not been divulged. That was when Abby recalled out loud how she wanted to share your secret. Poor Alex almost sobbed as the other women raised their eyebrows, curious to know what was about to happen. He braced himself for the awful revelation. The woman behind the counter picked up a bottle of perfume and sprayed a light mist of it into the air in front of him, encouraging Alex to fan the air with his hands to make sure he got enough on him. Feeling numb, he did as he was instructed. Then she held up the sample bottle and asked the others if they would like to try it, too. Alex's eyes went wide as he saw the name of the product, in looping cursive letters on its black and gold label. Your secret. He sighed in relief, even though he felt lightheaded, like he might swoon. The women inspected him and made more comments for the next several minutes. They wanted to adopt a toned-down version of Alex's look. Obviously, Abby had won high points for her creativity. Her customers began asking about items to purchase and were soon producing their charge cards. Alex stepped back, glad to no longer be everyone's focus. When they were all done and, after giving him one last looking over, finally departed, Abby gave him a friendly smile. She said, "Thanks for being my guest model. That was fun, and I think my ladies' club will be less standoffish from now on." In fact, she took something from under the counter. "I want you to have this. It's only supposed to be for gals who make major purchases, but after what those 4 spent, you deserve it." She gave Alex a small, handled shopping bag covered in broad vertical stripes that were alternately light and dark pink. Abby patted his hand as he took it and invited him to come back any time. He told her, his voice faint and demure, that he would try to see her again. As he walked away, he peeked into the bag and saw it contained a generous assortment of samples of various cosmetics and scents, along with moisturizer and something called nighttime sleep cream. Still coming down from all he had been through, he decided it was time to meet with his aunt at the food court. The trip back through the mall was intimidating because, with his new appearance, he attracted even more interest, some of it quite open. One tall handsome guy in designer jeans, a black t-shirt, and a nice sports coat, locked eyes with Alex and gave him a wink. What did that mean? Did he think Alex was a girl? Or know that he was a guy? At last he reached the food court. He looked around anxiously, fearing that Tabitha wouldn't be there. But she was, primly seated at one of the small tables, ankles crossed, a few purchases on the seat next to hers. He went over and she had him get her an iced tea. He knew better than to ask for anything for himself. After he had delivered her drink, he slid onto another chair, putting his knees together and shifting his feet to one side, the way he had been taught. His aunt said, "My, don't we look different? Do tell me everything that happened, dear. And don't leave out any details." He had to recount all of his embarrassments and concerns, rushing and then having to stop and sort his thoughts at several points. She listened attentively and asked numerous questions, all of them calculated to make him elaborate on the most uneasy portions of his time apart from her, and to heighten his discomfort to the maximum. She couldn't wait to tell her friend Eudora about everything. Or, better yet, make him tell her. They left, with Alex toting her bags, and got into the car. She began driving them back to her house, but then she took an unexpected turn and went to a row of small shops, where she found a parking spot. Alex had to walk alongside her for a half block, with more people seeing him and displaying curiosity about his distinctive look. They entered a boutique specializing in exotic clothing. He saw items made of latex and other types of rubber. There were shoes with tall, pencil-thin heels. An attractive older woman spotted Tabitha and greeted her by name. Alex's aunt said, "Violet, do you recall when we were discussing the possibility of using Alexis here for a photo shoot for your next catalog and online site?" "Yes, but you thought he didn't have the right look for the more interesting items that I wanted to feature." She turned her eyes to the corner of the room where there was a display of no latex corsets, rubber bondage skirts, tops with straitjacket sleeves, hoods, and other bizarre items. "But we had the most fortunate stroke of luck. Alex met a clever woman who gave him this new face, which would be perfect for what you have in mind. And I'm sure she could be persuaded to come here, or wherever you're going to do the photography, and get him ready for his mass circulation exposure." Alex felt like the floor was tilting. He would be seen by countless customers who received the catalogs. And on the internet he might be viewed by thousands more. Wearing those articles of clothing. He had to make an effort to gather himself together and hear what else his aunt was saying. Tabitha went on, "I only have one stipulation. I want there to be a shot of him as Alex, alongside one of the pictures of him as Alexis. We don't want to practice any deception in advertising. And I believe some of your customers would find it appropriate that your new model has, shall we say, an inner self that contradicts her outer self. Though I am blurring the distinction between those selves as time passes. And I'm sure I can complete the job. Eventually. Once she understands that this is who she really is. But for your catalog she'll still be Alex/Alexis, with a certain vulnerability that I'm sure your more discerning customers will perceive immediately. Especially once they see those before and after pictures." Violet nodded. "That will be perfect. May I get back to you with the time and place? There might even be some outdoor locations. Sort of damsel in distress pictures. I'm certain you'll approve. And I'll have my photographer print some extras and make up an album for Alexis to keep by her bed. She'll never get tired of seeing them and remembering what fun we had taking them. I'm sure she'll get along well with my photographer. He's young and..." She made a throat-clearing sound. "Virile. That sounds ideal. I'll be waiting for your call." Eagerly. "And I'm sure my nephew feels the same." She smirked at him. "Don't you, Alexis?" All he could find the voice to say was, "Yes, Aunty Tabitha." "Thank you, Aunty Tabitha."